Hello everybody and welcome to the channel where I will be posting all of my wonderful races as I take my road to trying to be like my idol, Mr. Super GT, if I can race against him. I know that's a bit far-fetched, but I just wanted to start sim racing and thought what better way to share the progress than to let you guys watch as well. So, this was my second race ever. The first one that I did was early in the morning, so this was my first one in the afternoon. So we're starting in 6th place, that's us in that black and purple Mazda 3. This is the race B of the day, so it's at the Spielberg track, the Red Bull Ring. So in front of us is Yossi, the Japanese driver in that white Ferrari. And then behind us we have a Hong Kong driver. I'm not quite sure what car he is in. I believe it is another Mazda 3. It is indeed. As we take off from the start of the race, trying to watch our line into turn 1 here and hopefully not get wiped out. And we didn't get wiped out, but we do slightly murder the Japanese driver in the white Ferrari, so sorry about that. But we are up into 5th place. The AlphaTauri car behind us is relatively close, but we are looking forwards at the Mazda 3 and the chaos that is about to ensue here. So the 4 cars in front, they all get into a bit of a scuffle there. One of them goes off, one of them's run wide, so there's a little bit of chaos all around everywhere. Coming into this corner, that AlphaTauri is starting to get very close behind us. But we are going to try and sneak our way through and just get as close as we can to the other cars here. So in the very front we've got the Japanese driver in the Alfa Romeo, then the South Korean driver, then the other Australian driver that we just gave a little nudge on the inside as we ran a little deep through that corner. But we might have another look on the inside here as he goes ghosted, but he gets a slightly better line on the exit there and we can't quite make it stick, but that's fine because he got a slowdown penalty, so we get past him anyway. As we come up onto the South Korean driver, not quite enough for us to be able to get past him with his penalty, so we'll try and watch our lines and try and catch up to him at some point over hopefully the next lap. So we are up into 3rd place. That is 3 places that we have gained, which I would say is pretty good for our first race, essentially first race of the day. I'm going to say first race of the day, as we do go pretty deep through there, coming a little close to the South Korean driver, but we have to compromise our line to watch out for track limits. So he did get a very nice run and we did not get as nice of one. So coming up to the 2nd corner, braking pretty late and slowing it all the way down, just to try and get as close as we can to try and slip into a slipstream, but it is not quite enough. But they're not quite running away with it. We're now going to skip to the end of lap 2 now, start of lap 3, where we're about 2.7 seconds behind the lead, and they're both fighting up there pretty intensely. So as we come out there, watching our line and only just stay in, I think, or it might be track limits, and it was indeed track limits, so that's a bit unfortunate, but that's what happens when you run wide. So now we really need to catch up to the cars in front, try and make a move so the penalty loss isn't too bad. As we come up there really slow out of that corner there and not quite gaining enough ground to be able to catch up to them anytime soon. So all that we can hope for is that in there arguing and fighting that something does happen and we can move up a spot, and wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what happens. A bit of a shunt into the back of the Alfa Romeo. Now you could be saying, oh, well, how do you know that it was a push and not just he spun out? Well, if you look closely to the car in front, that's a 4-second slowdown penalty. You don't get 4 seconds for avoiding track limits. That's for pushing someone off the track, as he nearly loses it over that curve there. So he's going to be slowing down for 4 seconds and we are going to be slowing down for half a second. Our main concern is the Japanese driver behind, if he'll have enough to catch up to us, but it looks like we are just going to be safe as we come in here, and we are now up in 1st place. How awesome is that? As we come around the last corner, the Alfa Romeo gets a little bit excited there, shoves us out of the way, and blasts past into first place. Unfortunately for him, that is now a 3-second slowdown penalty, which would give us that position back. However, we could spin and he could potentially run away with it. So I don't particularly want to be attacked by the South Korean driver behind me, so I just give him a little nudge out the first corner just to pick up the pace a little bit, as the Australian driver in the white Mazda is also having a shot at the South Korean driver and trying to make a move on the inside, so this could be a very interesting battle between the four of us. Slowing down, another little nudge to get him to hurry up, as the cars behind me are getting very, very close. We've also got the, looks like another Mazda 3 with the Hong Kong driver, who is also trying to get into the mix. And the South Korean driver is looking very, very close behind us now, and as we try and make this move on the inside, we get a nice big push from the back, which sends us into the gravel trap and now down to a miserable 7th place as we come back on the track behind the cyan Ferrari, or light blue, whichever one it is, depends on the angle. So all the way down, and the fact that we are now onto lap 5 and he is now in first place is going to suggest that he didn't get a penalty for that, which I would have thought was quite reasonable, but apparently not. So we're in 7th place. I think there was someone who did have to slow down. It was the Hong Kong driver here. As we try and get around, but not quite, we accidentally give them a little bit of nudge, and the counter steer is a little too much for them as they go off that 6th, and then sure enough, that is the Japanese Alfa Romeo that we are now sneaking past, so that is now 5th place as we come up and cross the line. So not too bad of a result considering. However, that very well could have been a first place and a first win. So unfortunate to see, and even worse to see that he was the one who won the race. But you can't control it. So we go into, this is the replay just to see who was in the wrong. Found a little bit odd that he didn't get the penalty, so I thought, well, maybe I braked early, or maybe I did something like this, but after watching the replay, I'm pretty convinced. So here's that corner where we bumped the Alfa Romeo just to get him a little push up the hill, and as you can see, the South Korean driver very, very close behind us as we come down to the terrible corner. I call it the PTSD corner now, as we come down there, and he just rams right into the back of us. So now, with a little bit of high-speed detective work and analysing every single possible angle that I can, and analysing brake lights, I'm 100% certain that he was in the wrong. 100%. So, this is the replay. This is what it looked like. And, as you can see, no thought of slowing down, just straight into the back of me. Whether it was distracted or malicious, you never know. However, he did run into the back of me. Not that I'm making excuses, but I could have won that one. Anyway, we go into the next race now, and I just make sure I give him a little reminder to be driving clean. And this race, I believe we are starting in either 6th or 8th place. There we go, 6th place. Once again, behind Mr. Yossi in the white Ferrari, and we will be trying to make up our positions again, maybe try and get a 1st or 2nd place. As we saw, we could potentially do that. As we start off now, I don't want to send the white car off into the abyss again on this first lap, so I was a little bit more cautious on the entry in, went on the outside this time, really had to compromise my line to make sure the track limits, but it was just enough to get past. And the Hong Kong driver, also in the Mazda 3, trying to edge his way through as well, and they're going to have their own little battle. We're going to target our sights towards the... What car is that? Is that the Alfa Romeo? Nope, the, Alpha Tauri. The Alpha Tauri car in front. The Hong Kong driver. And so we'll be working our way up there. Coming down into PTSD corner now. A lot of the cars are braking very early, and one of the cars actually goes off into the gravel and then makes a sharp right-hander, nearly spinning it. So that is now up to 4th place now, as we're going to try and continue our charge up. And as you can see, that grey car in front our new arch rival who stole our first victory. So we're going to be trying to catch up to his cars as best as we can. Reasonably close to start off with, 3 seconds the gap between me and first place. I say reasonably small considering this is the I think it's B rating races. Terrible line through there and we really lose our momentum, and once again another terrible line there. The cars behind very quickly catching up. Fortunately for us, they have track limit penalties, which gives a little bit more comfort. Now skipping to about halfway through lap number 3 now, and the car in third place, the Hong Kong driver, goes a little bit wide on his adventuring trip into the gravel, and the game is not a fan of those wide lines that he's taking, so that is a 0.5 slow down penalty. Now for some reason I thought that he would be slowing down right there. As you can see, he did not, so added on a little bit of extra pressure that I need to stay as close as I can to him for the next lap as well. As we come down here, terrible line out of the corner and onto the straightaway, and he is pretty much pulling away, or it at least feels like he's pulling away. Coming into the first corner, we do get a little close here, trying to just sneak our way up, and it was a really good corner through there. Really happy with that one, and we are now dead close with him once again. So coming up into this corner, we're going to have a quick look on the inside to see if we can make a move stick. And are we going to go for it? No, we don't. We just give him a tiny little nudge to help slow everyone down. And we are going to go onto the top straight, get a terrible exit out of there, and he's just going to start pulling away once again. So potentially a move into this corner here. As we brake, slowing down, trying to cut on the inside, but he has everything covered off really quite well there. So not quite enough for us to make the move stick. Now we're going to have a slight look on the inside here, but once again, he covers off on that inside line wonderfully. We're going to try and go as wide as we can to try and cut back on the inside, but once again, he's covering it off. We get a little bit loose, and now that's really lost our momentum for the slowing down period now, which means that we will not be able to catch up to him after his penalty. So we might try and go for a switchback. He brakes right when I'm trying to cross over, blocking the door, and we cannot make the move stick. So we stick to 4th place, and it stays that way. Pretty similar gap onto the final lap. We're really hoping that he bins it on one of these corners. A little bit ambitious through these corners, significantly faster than I was going previously. Borderline corner cutting thoughts on these entries, but not quite enough to catch up to him, and we will have to settle for a 4th place. And we are now onto our 3rd race of the day. And as you can see, we are starting significantly further back. We're starting in 11th place, in front of our now new good friend, Mr. Gosney, in the Alfa Romeo behind us. So we are going to be trying to stick in front of him, as well as try and catch up as far as we can up the order. Now the best part about starting it close to the back is that you can really get a good lunge into the cars in front. So we managed to make a very nice move stick on the inside of that Eva Mazda 3, and we're going to try and follow this other Vitasha car. Quite a lot of Vitashas in this specific race, and we go a little too hard, give them a little bit of a bump, send them off into the void, but not too far into the void, still enough that they can recover it, but that does give us 9th place. So that is now 2 positions up. As we come down into PTSD corner, really trying to make a move stick. Hopefully someone bins it, but they all keep it very tidy through there, and not quite enough for us to be able to sneak through. So as we continue coming down, still trying to hope that with these fights that someone bins it, but they're all keeping very sensible and very tidy through these corners, not really giving anyone an opportunity to overtake. But now it starts to get a little bit chaotic as they all start to take different lines, and a little bit of physical contact comes in, and what you'll see is that all the cars really quickly spread out and disperse into 4 different lines here. So very chaotic, and to try and avoid all these cars, I took an outside line and tried to come around, and the game was not a fan of that at all and handed me a wonderful little present of a 1 second slowdown penalty. So now the goal had really changed right now to just try and get in front of these cars, so then I wouldn't be falling too far behind, go a little bit wide out of that corner, and just for my efforts the game decides to go, hey, let's add on a little bit more salt onto the wound. Here's an extra 0.5 second slowdown penalty, so just to add salt into the wound as we try and potentially make a move on the inside here, going really high up, and just getting boxed out by that Red Bull Mazda 3. So we are still sitting in 8th place. However, it is very quickly looking like it'll be down to 10th, maybe even 11th at this point with this slowdown penalty. So watching the corners in here, go in way too hard and knock out one of the cars. So I'm surprised that I didn't get a 3 second penalty for that. So very sorry about that. Whoever was in the Lum Itasha Mazda 3. As we keep going down, we are up into 7th place now, but we will have to slow down in a second, and that's going to lose us all of our positions. As we come down, and Mr. Gosney is right behind us in his Alfa Romeo, he goes through. Then the Mazda 3 comes through, and here's the Lum car, managed to recover pretty well, so we move out of the way just to give them the room to get through, try and give them back the fact that we sent them off. And on the straightaway here, it gives us enough time that we can go into auto drive just to do a quick apology. However, this is the very reason why you don't text and drive, is because I then miss my braking point and go right through, nearly wiping her out once again. So we are going to once again stick behind, and now we're going to be attacked by the very first car that we overtook, the Evangelion Mazda 3. So they're going to sneak past, and we are back to where we started, back to 11th place. So we're going to try and potentially have a look on the inside here. Not quite enough, but the cars in front do have slowdown penalties, and the car from behind is really starting to attack and sitting very close into this conveniently terrible corner. So just watching out on everything right now. We'll brake a little later than usual just to try and hold it. And now this is where a bit of a battle goes on. Mr. Gosney goes a bit into the dirt, then they both try and go for the same space. It seems like the Mazda 3 just had a little more momentum behind him, and the Alfa Romeo goes flying off into the void. The Lum Mazda 3 has a 0.5 second slowdown, so we'll try and take advantage of that while sticking close behind the Evangelion car, and hopefully try and get at least another position. But the slowdown doesn't seem to slow them down too much, as they only fall back into 8th place, but they both kind of wipe each other out. Tries to come on the circuit a little too harshly there, bumps me and then compromises my line as I come around the final corner, but we have now secured 8th place as the massive wave of cars comes charging up from behind, and we're just going to try and run away as fast as possible. Taking a little bit too much curb on the inside there, bouncing the car and destabilising it, but it was enough that by the end of lap 5 we are still in 8th place, and we get a yellow flag just to make the deal even sweeter. The white Mazda has spun, giving us 7th place. It's not much, but it's an honest day's of work. So 7th place, starting in 11th, that's 4 positions. Considering we were up and down and up and down, I'd say that was pretty good. So after all these online races, I decided, hey, why not try out the brand new snow track? So I thought I'd jump straight in, no practice at it whatsoever, just jump straight into a race and give it a shot. and boy did I underestimate this. Now it may just seem like, well, there's the oval variation, but there's also this one which is significantly harder. But it may seem like it's a walk in the park. It really isn't, or at least not for me. So managing just to hold on to 11th place at the moment, already 13.5 seconds behind first place. So as we try and charge up here, trying to close the gap to this Peugeot RCZ, but really can't get any ground. As you can see, the accelerator is just I've absolutely no traction whatsoever. At this point I still had my traction control on, I think it was level 3 at this point, so any time that there wasn't traction, it wasn't letting me accelerate nearly as much as I would have wanted to. So that did lead for some pretty miserable drifts and some very, very slow speed around this, and as you can see, the gap now 14.5 and very quickly increasing, nearly 15 seconds now. So just trying to come around here, a little bit close to the wall there, and terrible exit out of this corner. The Japanese AI behind us is going to try and sneak up the inside potentially, but we might just be able to hold them off at this point. As we go in here, very, very slow over the top of that corner there, and we send it a little too hard into this corner and collision. I can promise you this is not an accurate recreation of the events that happened after that crash. I didn't crash at all. You're imagining things. I never even ran it. So after all these online races, we're going to try the snow track. First time that I've ever tried it. Definitely haven't tried it before in an NSX at all. Never. I'm telling you, it was never. Anyway, so going with the all reliable Audi Quattro here into our very first attempt at the snow track. And we come around very, very fast around the 12th car, trying to sneak here onto trying to get the 10th spot here, but not quite enough power or the right line to get through the Hyundai Hods onto that spot for the moment. But we are going to try and bring out some of the straight line speed of this car and just really ram it into this corner, and I mean ram it right into the back of the Hyundai. So sorry, not sorry, Mr. Hyundai. I wasn't too concerned about collisions or wall taps or anything like that in this one. It was purely a bit of fun to try out the new track. So that means that I can go as hard as I want on the AIs, just giving them a little bit of a love tap every now and then, just to remind them that I still exist. So as we come around, I'm not sure what corner this is, but we get a decent line through there, but still not quite enough to be able to catch up to the Hyundai. This insane speed, we managed to get past them, and we slip just on the inside of the Peugeot and try and get some angle there. Now you can see my traction control is off, and the second that I did that, the speed of the car increased by, I'd say, an extra 50%. So really started sending it now, and this is where I first underestimated that really off-camber turn, and that was into the snow barrier once. And trust me, it is not the first time. Sorry, it is not the only time. As we then go into another barrier, must have gotten brain damage from that shot, and then into the back of the Toyota 86. So really just hitting everything that we can possibly get. But we go on the inside now, try and get a good run on the inside. The cars in front get a little bit of air, we get a lot of air, and we're really just going to try and slam it around the Lancer, hit the back on something, and we're going to sneak in close to the WRX, and then past the Ford, get a little sideways, and the Ford gets past us again, but we're going to try and hold on to that spot from now on. Coming up onto the GTR, and within another half of the lap, we're in 4th, competing for 3rd against the Mustang, now for 2nd against the NSX. I wonder how the NSX goes around this track, and maybe I'll have to give that a shot at some point. Wink wink nudge nudge. Anyway, so this is going to be quite a good battle for first place. First the Audi Quattro, now us in the Audi Quattro, and once again I massively underestimate that turn, go flailing and slamming into that snow wall. I'm really glad that it's made out of snow at this point, as we just give the other Audi Quattro just a little friendly bump just to get out of the way. As we go drifting around all these corners, having way too much fun, and actually massively compromising my line here, and the Audi Quattro is going to try and sneak on the inside. We hit the wall and they blast past us, going down the straightaway. So we really need to get this position back. We go sideways, we lose it, we do a 180 and they drive off into the distance. So we really need to catch up, and it is pretty quick to catch up on some of these corners, especially in this car with the amount of power and grip that it does have off-road, as we just lightly touch our way through up into first place now on the third lap. Now, this is the end of the third lap, and as you can see up there, it is 3 out of 4 laps. I was blind. For some reason, I thought that it was the 4th lap, so I did a nice little 180 celebration around, only to see final lap get overtaken by the Audi Quattro, and then get blocked by the wall, so I can't do a 180 to try and get out of it. And very quickly, by the time that I do recover, the gap is now 5 seconds. That is a very large gap. So we really try and slam it around, and about halfway through the track we are very close to the car again, just giving a little tap to let them know that we're here and that the fun can begin, and getting very close to touching them again. But are we going to learn from our mistakes on this corner? Yes, we are. We take a lower corner, come around it very nicely, drifting. How about this corner? Have we learned from our mistakes from this one? It would appear no. That was close. I think a little touch on the back there, but we did manage to save it. However, this we did not save. I drifted into the straightaway, lost all momentum, and sure enough, the Audi Quattro had the same power but a better line coming out, and managed to secure first. So we had to suffer losing to the AI in second place. It's a very sad and unfortunate day. So after that disappointment, I then went back to daily races because I seemed to be having a little bit better success there and a little bit more fun as well. So we are starting in 8th now, once again, Mr. J. Gosney in his Monster Energy Alfa Romeo, and lights out and away we go. Trying to catch up a little bit more on this one, try and see if we can end off the day on a high and get some possibly a well-deserved podium, as that does not look good as we come in way too hard on that corner and shove one of the Mazdas out of the way. Sorry, Mr. Mazda. Now we are Mr. Gosney. He managed to sneak his way through as well with that bump, so he's going to be following us up as we try and sneak up on this WRX as we make our way through a pretty slow corner there, watching that we don't go too wide, so really had to back off there, but we are closer to the group in front than the group behind us. A little bit later onto lap 2 now, we're still in 7th place, but we are right on the back of that WRX. Tried to look on the inside but couldn't make anything stick. Once again, having a look on the inside but having the door slammed on us this time. As we come around the last couple of corners, just checking behind us, and we have a pretty sizable gap of 3.5 seconds, and the gap to the front is about half a second. So we're going to be watching our lines here, watching our corners, trying to really make this move work, but he's just fast enough that we can't get there as we run a little bit wide there. Hopefully that is not track limits, but it is. And by the chat, it looks like Mr. Gosney has also had a little bit of a racing incident. So we come around this corner and not much action on that lap, honestly, as we now serve our slowdown penalty, still in 7th place, but the gap that we've built up so the car's behind, it doesn't really affect us at this point, only ruins our chances of moving up in the world. So as we come around this corner, going a little tight on that one, hopefully that one isn't track limits, it doesn't look like it is. So yeah, pretty boring last race, honestly. 7th place, last couple of corners. I don't think anyone really moved in the leadership, but I wasn't really paying attention to that. As we come around the last couple of corners, really hoping that he just bins it on the exit somewhere here, but no, he keeps it very tidy. We take a little bit of curb for good measure and get penalised for it just because we can as we cross the line. And we managed to hold on to 7th place even with that penalty. So all in all, interesting races. definitely going to do more online races, so if you do want to continue watching those, make sure that you subscribe, go and check out the VODs channel, Speedy Boys VODs, and I'll see you next time. See ya.